Chicago, it's now spread all over the world. From New York to London to Jacksonville, Florida, drill has become a worldwide genre. The Jacksonville scene has exploded over the past year, mainly due to the beef between Foolio and Young and Ace. Here's a closer look at some Jacksonville drill lyrics that actually happened. I would've got a job, but I ain't tryna go like P4K. Walking the stock, Whopper with the chopper, featuring J. Breezy. Whopper with the Chopper is a Jacksonville rapper affiliated with Young and Ace and the ATK gang. Whopper is featured on the now famous track Who I Smoke, where the gang raps about smoking on the ashes of real ops over a beat that samples 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. But before that song made headlines, Whopper was dissing other enemies in his own music. This bar is from a 2020 track called Walking Stock featuring J. Breezy. Whopper is referencing a member of a rival Jacksonville gang called P4K and a dead rapper named Jordan Russell, aka Jump Out Squeeze. Jump Out Squeeze was shot and killed while waiting in line to apply for a job at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on June 29, 2020. Witnesses said that 2 men popped out of a silver car and shot the rapper several times, while a third person acted as the getaway driver. 2 other people standing next to him were also grazed in the shooting, but were taken to the hospital without any life-threatening injuries. No one was ever arrested for the murder of Jump Out Squeeze, but he was an alleged gang member of Jacksonville gang P4K, who are known to beef with at least 2 other gangs in the area, ATK and NHG. Not long before he was killed, the rapper released the tracks 23 Dead Ops and Ops Shit, where he joins in on the drill trend of taking shots at rival gangs he's currently beefing with. He disses real dead ops like Quan from ATK, Young and Ace's brother, and accuses J. Breezy of NHG of snitching and switching sides on his gang. So it makes sense that Whopper with the Chopper, who's associated with ATK, would team up with J. Breezy from NBK to diss a dead op. It seems like Jump Out Squeeze may have been trying to turn his life around and land a legal job. But when you make a diss song referencing many active gang members in your city, you have to expect there are going to be some consequences at some point. If you thought that was crazy, this next Jacksonville artist rapped about a triple homicide that happened outside a sushi restaurant after a birthday dinner. Went out to eat on his birthday, both shot dead, 3 dead in the worst way. When I see you, Foolio. Foolio is another poppin' rapper from Jacksonville who's associated with a gang called KTA, which is short for Kill Them All. KTA is known to beef with Young and Ace's clique ATK. The 2 groups have been going back and forth dropping bodies and exchanging diss tracks over the past year as both rappers have went viral. In this bar, Foolio is rapping about a shooting that went down back in 2018 involving Ace, his brother, and 2 of their friends. The ATK crew was out to eat at Wasabi, a sushi restaurant on Town Center Parkway in Jacksonville. They were celebrating the birthday of Ace's brother Trayvon Bullard, aka Quan, who had just turned 18. As they were leaving the restaurant, another vehicle pulled up alongside them and started shooting. Ace was shot 8 times but survived. Everyone else in the car, including Quan and their 2 other friends, were killed. The shooting is rumored to be payback for the murder of Foolio's cousin, Zion Brown. Zion was killed in 2017 after someone broke into his house and shot him and his 2 sisters. The 2 girls survived, but Zion didn't, and a 19-year-old named DeAndre Thomas was later arrested for the murder. At the time of the shooting, Thomas had a warrant out for his arrest that was related to a burglary he committed with Young and Ace. The 2 men tried to rob a weed dealer, and during the break-in, shots went off. Those shots almost hit a couple and a 1-year-old baby. Luckily, no one was hit, but Ace spent a few months in jail while Thomas was out on the run. Zion Brown was Foolio's cousin, and the murder set off a violent war in Jacksonville that continues to this day. It's not clear whether Ace had any involvement in the Zion Brown murder, but with the actual killer behind bars, the KTA crew got revenge by going after the closest thing to him, Young and Ace. In the video for this song, news coverage on the shooting can be heard playing during the intro. Foolio takes the disrespect to another level by rapping next to a printed banner with the 3 victims' faces on it that was also taken from the news coverage. Plus, the video was filmed at a gravesite, which many assumed was where the 3 victims were buried. The song and video are pretty savage, but then again, so is the track that inspired the diss, Who I Smoke. So it seems like it's an all-out war between ATK and KTA gangs. It's hard to squash a beef after both sides have lost so many people, and the crews they're affiliated with have gone back and forth dissing each other's dead homies. But in the world of drill, anything goes, especially in a place as wild as Duval County. But that wasn't the first time a dead op was dissing this beef. In this next bar, Ace talks about one of Foolio's closest friends who was killed before turning 18. He didn't get the chance to see 18, that nigga died a little boy, 400 shots. In this bar, Young and Ace is referencing Foolio's friend Bibby, who was killed at just 16 years old outside of the Hilltop Village Apartments in February 2019. Adrian Garner Jr., who also went by the name Bibby Osama, was hanging out with a friend at a gazebo outside of the apartment complex when two men jumped out of a vehicle and started firing. The two boys ran in different directions, with Bibby being hunted down and then shot to death as he tried to shield himself. The friend survived, and police later recovered more than 45 shell casings from a rifle. Bibby was close friends with Fulio and had ties to the KTA gang. On the track Bibby's Story, Fulio details his relationship with Bibby and even drops the bar, "He was 16 with a body on his belt," revealing that despite his age, Bibby was active in the streets. An ATK member who raps under the name K-So was later charged with Bibby's murder. K-So is associated with Youngin Ace and is rumored to be his right-hand man and main shooter. Not long after his death, Bibby ended up becoming the Tuka of Jacksonville, with K-So and other KCA-affiliated rappers dissing him on countless tracks. K-So even went as far as using Bibby's image on his album art for the mixtape Bibby Out, along with 5 other dead ops, including Zion Brown. The album cover ended up drawing a lot of attention from local news outlets and police. K-So was eventually charged with the murder after being arrested for the killing of another KCA affiliate named Lil Buck. Police were able to get a witness to testify who was in the vehicle with K-So on the day that he allegedly shot Bibby. It's not clear who the witness was, but it's obviously someone close to K-So. He was in the vehicle with the rapper when they allegedly committed the murder, so it can't just be an innocent bystander on the street. One of K-So's co-defendants in the Lil Buck murder also flipped on the rapper and agreed to testify, so it's possible that he decided to give up information on Bibby's murder as well as try to negotiate a deal. Ironically, the police claim that K-So killed Lil Buck because he dissed the rapper's older brother, Boss Goon, who had been murdered earlier that year. Yet, K-So was also the one using his dead ops on his album cover, so it seems pretty wild that he would murder someone for doing the same thing. But then again, in the world of drill, anything goes. K-So was held on a $1 million bond for Lil Buck's murder, which was increased to $3 million after the witness agreed to testify in the Bibby murder. Things are not looking good for K-So, unless he can somehow pull a King Von and convince the witness to refuse to testify. The case is yet to go to trial, and more updates on this story are likely to surface later on. If you thought that was crazy, this next bar is about an op who was set up, kidnapped, held for ransom, and then killed, only for his body to be discovered a year later. Corbin got kidnapped, they found his bones, he was rotten. Fulio, Beatbox Remix. Corbin Johnson, aka Spaz Corbin, was an 18-year-old who was associated with the 1200/S4C jump out gang from East Jacksonville. Corbin was reported missing by his family on June 11, 2018. Just like Jump Out Squeeze from P4K, on the day he was last seen, Corbin was applying for a job at an Amazon warehouse. His father told police that he picked up his son from that interview and took him to apply at a UPS store around 5 p.m., then dropped him off at his mother's house around 8 p.m. His mother says that he left the house around 9:30 p.m. and never returned. His father sent him a text the next day, yet Corbin didn't respond. The family reported him missing 48 hours later, but the police didn't have much to go off of. Exactly 1 year later, on July 11, 2019, a man clearing a field on a tractor discovered human remains wrapped in a bag. Police quickly determined that the bones belonged to Corbin, and his death was ruled a homicide. It's been rumored that Corbin was set up by a girl he knew and was kidnapped by a rival crew. They held him for ransom over a drug debt, and when his homies refused to pay what was owed, they killed him and disposed of his body in the woods. There wasn't much evidence to go off of after his body was discovered. It was mostly bones at that point, so no one was ever arrested for the murder. Fulio even mentioned the kidnapping on his IG Live, claiming that his worst fear was getting kidnapped and murdered. Even though Fulio was the one mentioning Corbin in his song, it doesn't seem like he had anything to do with the kidnapping. He keeps referencing to the killers as they, making it seem like he's just commentating on the situation and wasn't actually taking credit for the hit. But Fulio does seem to suggest that Corbin and Ace were cool, which may have been a possible motive. What seems more likely is that Fulio used Corbin's murder to show how wild it can get on the streets of Duval County. But Corbin isn't the only person Fulio mentioned in that freestyle. He also dissed a witness who took a stand against 2 of his homies. Jamar, that's a real rap. Jamar was the name of a witness who put 2 of Fulio's friends, Cracker Jack and JB, behind bars. The case involved the murder of 22-month-old Aiden McClendon, who was accidentally killed in a drive-by shooting in 2016. The victim was in the car with his grandmother and great-grandmother on the east side of Jacksonville when 2 men started firing shots from a moving vehicle. The intended target was the victim's older cousin, 19-year-old Reginald Brown, who was standing on the lawn nearby at the time. The shooters missed and hit Aiden by accident, who was brought to the hospital and pronounced dead later that day. Jamar happened to be standing nearby and saw the whole thing go down. He took a photo of the 2 killers, which was eventually used to identify Henry Hayes, aka Cracker Jack, and Kwame Richardson, aka JB, who